Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews. The Explorer of Horror here, and today we're getting to one of my personal favorites, and that is the classic film from 1985, directed by Tom Holland, Fright Night, which I got the basic Blu-ray. I won't lie, I cheaped out. I know there was a 4K that was just released, and sadly I wasn't able to get it, but at least the Blu-ray has the classic poster. I love it. There are some very good reasons to be afraid of the dark. If you love being scared, it'll be the night of your life. Fright Night. And yeah, Fright Night's a movie that I had forever on this really cheap DVD set. It was this, The Blob, Christine, and The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore. I seen three of those movies. I did not see The Seventh Sign. Because I heard it was bad, and I just was like, I don't know anything about this movie. But Fright Night is a film that I had always heard about. I mean, this movie is very infamous. It's a classic horror film. Tom Holland's one of my favorite directors, and I had seen Child's Play. I had seen Psycho 2, which he didn't direct, but I believe he wrote that movie. And everybody talked about Fright Night, and eventually I was able to track down a DVD of it and watch it, and instantly became one of my favorites of all time. As well as The Blob. The Blob is another one of my favorites. The Blob remake from 1988. That's one of my favorite remakes, one of my favorite films. I also loved Christine. So that DVD set introduced me to a lot of films. And yeah, Fright Night, this is such a great time for horror, because the mid 80s, you still had the slasher craze. There were still a lot of slasher movies coming out, but that was mainly 81 till 84. After 84, I loved how the horror genre was just starting to expand into so many other things. In this case, vampires. You had such an amazing time for vampire films, because you had this, you had The Lost Boys, you had Near Dark, you had so many good vampire movies coming out in the mid to late 80s, and it kind of all started with this movie. And I know the production of this movie, they weren't harassing Tom Holland about it. They didn't really worry about it. I think it was made by Columbia. The studio was Columbia, I think. And it was sort of a movie that was not really like, the studio wasn't constantly watching this movie. They were focused on other things. And so Tom Holland and the crew was able to have fun and just have a blast making this movie. And it's a very infamous history of just them saying how fun it was, how challenging it was, and just them having all of the time they want to work on characters, acting, and special effects. And that's cool, because it really helps the film. It really makes the movie stand out. And I think it has some of the better special effects of the 80s. And there's a lot of cool looking makeup effects. And this is a prime example of a film that I constantly do say, like, yeah, this shows practical effects work. And the story is a classic story. It's basically Rear Window with vampires. There's a character named Charlie Brewster who one day hears the scream next door, and after that he begins to realize his neighbor is a vampire and is seducing women and bringing them back to his house to feed. And basically nobody believes him. He goes and tracks down Peter Vincent, who of course is, Peter Vincent is played by Roddy McDowall, who I'm a huge fan of. I love the Planet of the Apes movies. This is the first movie I had seen him in, was this film, so it was cool when I went back and watched Planet of the Apes, seeing him in those films as well. And I love the character Peter Vincent. Obviously a Vincent Price type of character, where the over-the-top acting and I will slay this vampire, all the over-the-top acting on the TV. And Charlie Brewster has some friends, Evil Ed, and he has his girlfriend, Amy, who they don't believe him either, but they think that he's kind of maybe mentally lost it a bit, and they try to get Peter Vincent to help him out. And Peter Vincent realizes he's not lying. This is a real vampire. And of course, Chris Sarandon playing Jerry Dandridge, great character and a great just vampire, and it's totally just, it's a character that could kill Charlie Brewster anytime he wanted. But he's letting Charlie know, like, dude, stop trying to stop me. Like, you can't do it. Like, you're just a kid. You're just a normal person. I'm a freaking vampire. Like, I love how Chris Sarandon in this movie is just not worried at all about... is just not worried about William Ragdale at all. And is just such a cool and collected villain of the movie. And basically, Charlie Brewster has to do the best he can to stop Jerry. Meanwhile, his girlfriend gets taken, and a wonderful scene in the club. The club scene, I think, is very well done. And that's basically the plot of the movie. I love this movie so much. I can gush for hours upon hours upon hours on why I love this movie and why this movie, to me, didn't need to be remade. It's perfect the way it is. I didn't see the sequel. I've never seen Fright Night Part 2. I've never seen the remake. There's no point for a remake, in my opinion. This is the perfect 80s horror film. You don't need to remake it, in my opinion. But yeah, I love the poster. I love the poster even. Classic poster. I love the opening titles. I love how the movie has the logo of Fright Night and it sprouts fangs. And it even has a little sound effect. I love that. And I think the characters are all likable, all memorable. Evil Ed, Charlie Brewster, Amy Peterson, who's played by Amanda Bierce, Peter Vincent, Jerry Dandridge, and he kind of has this this guy working for him. I think it's Jonathan Stark, Billy Cole. I want to say it's Jonathan Stark, who I think was also in House 2, the second story. I'm going to double check on that real quick. But yeah, he was in House 2. I recognize him from that. But I love all the characters. I love the acting. There's not one performance to me that seems awful. I love the Peter Vincent character and how he's scared. He's really scared by this, and he sort of motivates himself by saying, "I am the great vampire hunter. I am the great vampire killer." It's just great how he's hyping himself up, and then he's still scared shitless. And it's just, yeah, I think everything about it, the lore, the way the makeup looks on Jerry Dandridge in certain scenes, I thought was really effective and creepy. And certain scenes I just absolutely love. I love the bedroom scene where Jerry just sort of appears out of the closet and starts attacking Charlie and being like, "Hey, you never saw me. Forget about me. Just forget about me and I'll forget about you." And basically Charlie fights back, gets the pencil, stabs it, and the way the makeup looks in that scene is just so neat and cool looking. I also love the scene where Evil Ed and Peter Vincent kind of battle, and Evil Ed becomes a vampire. He turns to this wolf, and it is kind of a sad scene because Peter Vincent stakes the wolf, but doesn't really kill Evil Ed immediately. Evil Ed just sort of dies slowly and is crying and is reaching out for help to Peter Vincent. And it's such a good moment because that's when the character's like, "Oh my God, like a kid's died. Like, we got to stop this." And he gets serious. He goes and he helps Charlie fight the David character. Or not David, Jerry. I don't know why I keep wanting to say David. That's why I keep having to look. I'm like, is it David? Jerry Dandridge. I keep wanting to say David. I don't know why, but yeah, I love that. I love all the stuff and the house, Jerry's house. I love how it looks gothic and misty and foggy. This movie does a great job at paying homage, but also being original. And that's the best kind of horror films to me, are the ones that can, here's some stuff that you recognize, the whole Vincent Price thing, here's the cobwebs and the spooky mist and the weird creepy house. But let's do some different things. Let's have an 80s club scene with some great music, by the way. I love the music in that scene. But people are dancing and Jerry's just watching Amy and seducing her. And it goes on for a minute. But it's such a good scene. And I think Chris Sarandon plays a great vampire. Good presence. You buy that he's intimidating, but he also seduces people. And the scene with Evil Ed is kind of sad because he tells him, like, are you tired of being a loser? You don't gotta be a loser anymore. Be a vampire, basically. And it's kind of a sad scene because you feel bad for the Evil Ed character. But it gets a 7.0 on IMDb, directed by Tom Holland. I don't know why I mentioned that again. It's sort of automatic thing when I mention the rating. But 7.0, that's a little low, honestly, for this movie. At least a 7.5 or an 8. Like, come on, this movie's great. But yeah, I think everything to this movie is just really well done. The mother character, Charlie's mother, she's a very, she's definitely, very oblivious to everything going on. But, I thought she was a fun character. And it's one of my favorite vampire movies, one of my favorite 80s films. And I think it's just a perfect horror film. Perfect horror film to me. Good special effects, cool looking scenes. When Amy gets turned into a vampire and her mouth opens and it becomes like all the way out to here, creepy as hell, man. When I first seen this movie, that creeped me out a lot. I was like, and it still looks damn good to this day with the red eyes. It's such a cool looking thing. This is just a great movie. 5 out of 5 in my opinion. I know it's pretty high for most people. Or at least a 4.5. If I'm being realistic, 4.5 or a 5. I love this movie. But yeah, I could gush about this movie for forever and ever. But Fright Night's a classic for a reason. I think it's directed extremely well by Tom Holland. It's very well written by Tom Holland. Extremely well acted. With some very memorable characters. And yeah, I basically love Fright Night. Everything about it. So to me, it's a perfect horror film. But I watched it recently and I thought to myself, I'm like, have I ever talked about Fright Night? And as much as I could recall, I don't think I've ever reviewed these movies. And I had the remake on DVD for years. And then I had the second one on DVD, the second remake. Well, the sequel to the remake. But I never watched them. I actually sold the DVDs. I'm like, I'm not going to watch these, so I'm just going to get rid of it. But, yeah, Fright Night, I've never talked about it before. At least I don't think I have, which I had to change immediately because this is one of my favorites. But, yeah, good scenes, classic scenes, good characters, very, very well written, very, very well done. It was a blast. From what I've heard, it was a blast to make this movie, and it's a blast to watch. It's very, very fun. Gory, bloody, gooey. You got vampire killing. You got wolves, bats. It's a cool movie. Real cool movie. 4.5 or a 5 out of 5 for me. But if you guys have seen Fright Night, drop a comment. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. But to me, it's a great horror film. But that's going to be it for this discussion tonight on Fright Night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Explorer of Horror's out, and that's basically it. That's all I got on this classic. It's a great movie. And if you haven't seen Fright Night, what are you doing? Go watch it. It's a good movie. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care. Explorer of Horror's out. Y'all have a good night.